Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bowl University studio from the International Bowling Campus here in Arlington, Texas. Welcome to the Profit Break. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, we're glad you're here. Give us 15 minutes, and you're going to be well on your way to improving not only yourself, but your profitability. Now, my guess is you're frustrated with the never-ending cycle of finding, hiring, and training team members, only to have to do it all over again. It is the single biggest issue facing your business today. And besides being stressful, it's expensive. But there is hope. Joining us today is Miss Colene Rogers, a.k.a. the Talent Keeper, and she is here to help. She is an HR professional and CEO of Retention Architects. They're a boutique firm focusing on providing solutions for small businesses to help them attract, retain their most important asset, yes, their people. She's also the author of Retention: Key Mindsets that help retain top talent. Colene, thank you for joining us today. Excited to have you with us on this very important topic.
Yes, thank you for having me, Bart.
Awesome. So, hey, let's dig right in. Before we can talk about retaining our team members, I think we have to understand a little bit about why people leave. So you're out in the field, you're visiting with a lot of small businesses. Why are people leaving today?
So I do pull from working with clients in small and medium-sized businesses, but also that 20-something years in human resources. So my background's in talent acquisition, finding them, and then figuring out how to retain them. So why do they leave? Well, if you do any kind of Google search, the number one reason people leave their job is their supervisor. They don't connect with the supervisor. That would be the number one reason. Number two would be the team that they work with. But other than that, it would be they don't know a clear path to upward mobility. They don't know where they can go in the company. They don't feel trained. So all of those factors play into why they don't stay with your organization. And so what we try to do is work with our clients and figure out what's going on by looking at a lot of different things and then addressing those issues.
Yeah, I think it's important for our viewers today that one thing I didn't hear you say was pay or money, which is often kind of the default thing we think about is, we have to pay more. And all the data shows and what you share with us from your expertise is that money is not on the top of the list on why folks are leaving.
It's true, and that hasn't changed. There's a book called The Carrot Principle, and then that was written like 20 years ago. And then Gallup just did a study last year of 12 things by interviewing millions of people in cross sections of industries, and pay was not up there. Yes, people want to make sure it's one of the top 5 things, but it's not 1, 2, 3, and 4. They want to make sure they're getting great pay and benefits compared to the job somewhere else. But it's appreciation and recognition. We often lack that. It's my supervisor, it's upward mobility, it's flexibility. So all of those things play into, and a lot of this we can change and determine. We just have to know where we might be dropping the ball or where we might have to change our ideas and perspectives a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. So it seems like the pandemic was an accelerator for a lot of societal trends, not all of them positive. And one of them is this frequency of which today the workforce changes jobs. Now, you touched on it a little bit, but do you see that out there? Am I just imagining this, or are people changing jobs at a more rapid pace in this post-pandemic environment we're in?
I do think so, yes. I do not think the longevity is there, even though we have clients that people have been there 10, 20, 30 years. And so what we want to do is we want to keep them as long as we can to get that return on investment, because you're investing in their training. And so you want to keep them. So why are they changing? I do believe it's because we're dropping the ball. We're not doing the training. We're not giving them a progression chart, if you will, of what they need to do to get to the next level. We're letting them fill in the gap, and that gap of not knowing where they're going, they're going to go somewhere else, because in a professional field, LinkedIn has recruiters that are going to snag your people. I know I had a LinkedIn recruiter seat as an in-house recruiter. So just out there in the marketplace, people are talking. So if you're not helping them connect the dots of where they can go in your company, then they're going to jump ship. So it's internally what we can do, and there's lots that we can do. It's not a magic pill. It takes time, but we don't want the cost of turnover. turnover. And I think that's something that we might want to address. And I think that's a question that you have, Bart, that you would like to know a little bit more about the cost of turnover.
Yeah, absolutely. You are reading my mind, is that before we get into some tactics, we know as small business operators, turnover is costly, but how do we quantify it, and what is it really costing us, both in the dollars and the emotional toll?
Yeah. So there's tangible and intangible costs. So as a human resource professional, I'd often sit down, and I still do with HR people. I'm like, what is it costing you? And that's the numbers you have to get the attention of the numbers guys, right? The C-suite, the CFO, the CEO. And so SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management, which is, our association for HR professionals, says it costs between 50 and 75% of someone's salary to find, replace, and train them. Now, that's a significant amount of money. A $60,000 salary is costing you $30,000 to $45,000. And so that was a broad scale. So what I did is I came up with what I call it a turnover calculator. I used the statistics from SHRM, what they said were the costs. I looked at the Department of Labor. I looked at the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and I came up with a 75 line item turnover calculator that I do with each client. We go in, we do that first. We look at their highest turnover position, and we plug in their numbers, not my numbers. For example, we have a company, a plumbing client here in Tallahassee, Florida, and we have a year contract with them to change their culture, to help them retain their talent. We did their very entry-level position. We are talking about the people who are working on digging some ditches, and that position alone was $10,000. Well, you lose 20 of those people in a year, you start getting, your mind start going, ding, 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 what are we going to do to keep them? And so that's what we do. It does cost significantly. And then you mentioned the intangible, the frustration of other people doing extra work, the what's going on behind the curtain, Oz, they're leaving, why shouldn't I leave? And so when you say people jump ship, they don't jump ship usually for $1. That's what they're going to tell you in the exit interview, because they don't know how else to articulate why they don't want to stay. And so that's our job. We can fix that internally. And that's what we help people do.
Yeah, and that's, I think that example with the plumber is a great analogy. You talk about a frontline staff member, 10,000, that's a big number. So we've talked to kind of 30,000 feet to understand that it's happening, it's costly, it's affecting every business, big and small. Let's get into some tactics. I know you're going to be joining us at our Bowl Expo, at our Super Session. We're going to take that 3-hour deep dive. It's going to be great. But for those folks that are joining us today, what are some of the tactics? What can we do to start that journey of retaining our top talent?
So in the book that we wrote, and I say we because my husband and I work in this business together, and so we have what we call retention architecture. And so I took the 20-something years of HR experience and I put it in a framework, right? So you're just not throwing, hey, let's do some leadership training, let's do this, let's do that. So we have a framework of retention architecture, and it has 5 pillars. Number 1 is every organization has to have a strong talent acquisition program. That means from the very first time they see your ad, they hear about your company, all the way up through the onboarding process. Everything that happens in the mind of the applicant or employee. Right? So we want to look at it. Number 2 is we need strong leadership development. We often move people into leadership positions without training them to move from an individual contributor into leading and inspiring and influencing other people. And that's not easy if that's not your easy set of mindset that you have. Number 3 is communication is very important in every organization, marriage, every relationship, right? So we help people figure out how to better communicate, and we also teach them how to resolve conflict, because people often leave a job because of that conflict, and they're not going to tell even the HR person. Number 4 is a strong talent development program. What are you doing to develop the talent that you have? Do you have that progression chart? Do you doing something we call retention talks? We'll talk about that in our 3-hour deep dive. And then HR practices that keep you out of court. So everything we do falls under that umbrella, those 5 pillars. And we look at them individually in each company, and we say, here, this is what we need to do here. This is what we need to do there. We can even get more specific if you'd like, Bart, on even just one of those.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about organizational culture. That seems to be a buzzword today that a lot of companies, big or small, are talking about, is how do you create positive change in an organizational culture?
So let's go back to the plumbing company. So we're working for them for a year. We just sat in with their C-suite, their project managers, and we've been working on this culture thing for a while. We're training the C-suite on how to manage their superintendents. We're training the superintendents on how to manage the plumbers and the plumber helpers in the field. And we just got a report back from them, and this is just in 7 months' work. They're getting more jobs because the people out there in the field are relating better with the contractors. The word on the street is, hey, this company is doing some great things. They even had 3 interviews last week that people came from another plumbing company to want to work with them because they heard that the superintendents treat people with dignity and respect. So see how it's simple, but it's obviously it takes time. You start training the people who are meeting and interacting with that talent you're so hard trying to find and retain. And the hardest talent to retain right now is that entry level. And when you think about it, it's because they don't get to make any decisions. They just come to the job and they're told what to do, right? So they're the ones that are quickly leaving because they're impacted by either a good or not so great supervisor. And again, I don't want to put all the blame on the supervisor. They're often not trained how to lead people, and people can be difficult, can't they? So that's how you slowly change the culture, is you get in there and you work with the people who are making the difference in the lives of your employees.
Yeah, there was a lot of powerful points in that I know that you're going to take a much deeper dive and unpack when you're with us there. Let's sneak in one more today, because one of the fascinating things as I was learning about you and Jim, your husband, and your organization, what you do is that you are, and I have to read this to make sure I get it correct, you're a certified conflict resolution trainer. That even just sounds important. So what exactly is that, and why did you choose to be certified? The curious minds need to know.
Well, there's always a story behind everything, right? And so as a human resource professional, everybody would bring their problems to us. So I got pretty good at solving everybody else's problems, but I couldn't teach other people to do it. So there was that reason, because I was trying to teach clients, but there was also the conflict within my own family. My mother passed away, and the decision was, where do we do with Dad? Do we keep him home? Does he also live in a facility? And so you can imagine that I have 2 brothers. There was conflict on how to deal with all that. And I said, I got to get better at this, because it's all good until it's your own, right? And then when it's your own, how are you dealing with it? So I became a Crucial Conversation certified trainer, and then we've taken that to a different level, and we now train on what we call tough talks, which encompasses a lot of things. But that's why I became certified. I needed a framework to able to teach other people how to do it. And that's what we do with our clients. We just I hate to say the plumbing company, we just trained all of those plumbers on how to have tough talk conversations. So it was a really cool experience, because most people have never had that training. So it was fun. We love it. We love what we do, and we're so glad when we get to make an impact in companies.
Yeah, well, I love that the skills you're sharing with us they're transferable, right? They're not only business skills, but they're life skills, and it's just going to be great. Colene, thank you so much for being with us today. We are so looking forward to having you with us for the Super Session. It is going to be great.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Our pleasure. Hey, gang, imagine going home and not worrying about the next no-call, no-show team member. It all starts with Colene's book and what is available now online, but I'm going to share with you how to get a copy of it for free there. So if you're ready to learn more about retaining your team members and building a culture to become the employer of choice in your community, then don't miss Colene's Super Session at Bowl Expo this June in Orlando. Now, folks, seats for the Super Session are part of Bowl Expo full registration, but you must register in advance for the Super Session. The seats are limited. I can assure you this is going to sell out. You should reserve your spot today. And Colene has been gracious enough. Every attendee is going to receive a copy of Colene's book, Retention: Key Mindsets That Retain Top Talent. So if you're ready to start improving your profitability, you can reach us anytime at education@bpa.com. As we wrap up another edition of the Profit Break, remember, when your focus is on growing people, people will grow your business. Now, this episode, as well as all of our previous episodes of the Profit Break, are available 24/7. You, your team, your friends, send them over to bowlinguniversity.net. Plus, we have new episodes available every month. Mark your calendar, watch your email, join us on Facebook to hear about all the latest episodes. Until then, I'm Bart Berger, and remember, do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. We'll see you next time.